Welcome to the Undefined Podcast. Today we have Mark Boyle from BBArray. We're talking everything blockchain, AI, and Dubai. I hope you look forward to the conversation.
The worst thing ever is when someone says, "Oh, it'll be simple to do," and it's always the client that says it.
Yeah,
"Oh,
it's
we need
just a little
this,"
thing.
and it's like, "Oh, but it should be very simple," and you're like, "Well, how would you know?"
Yeah.
In what world, without studying computer science or ever building a system, makes it easy for you? Just because we can make the front end look easy for you, but all the stuff going on in the back end,
making the front end look simple, means it's hard.
Well, no, but that's exactly it, man. And we get it. Every project we've ever had has scope creep in it, but there's nothing you can do to counter it, really. Like, we can get really strict on variations, but it's always vague enough where they can go, "Oh no, but this falls in that," and then you're like, "Well, does it though?" And then the problem is, though, that's tying in towards the end of the project, final milestone, final payment. They'll just hold the payment.
Okay. Yeah, well, let's kick it off then. Mark, great to have you here. And, obviously we know each other a little bit, but, not close friends by any means. But obviously it's the first episode of the Undefined Podcast, and obviously great to have you here from BBArray. Just to sort of kick it off, and we're just probably going to ask this to every guest that comes on here. What was your first job that was a little bit unexpected before you started BBArray?
I worked in the oil rigs. I worked in the oil rigs for 2 years in Saudi, so that was pretty intense. The rest was, just your kind of standard norms. Like, I grew up in south of Spain, in Puerto Banús. So there was a lot
Interesting.
So there was a lot of bar jobs and stuff like that.
Right.
A lot of PRing gigs to kind of trying to get people in. It's like buy one get one free.
Yeah.
And all of
I've
that.
actually just come back from Marbella a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, that's where I grew up. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a family holiday, so we were like up in the hills there. We rented like a nice villa out there. Thank you, Mum and Dad.
Were you like Benavis way?
Basically, you've got Malaga, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously you've got the coast down, and we're kind of in between Malaga and Puerto Banús area.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So we did go down there and stuff, saw all the boats and stuff, but living in Dubai, it's
Dubai spoils you, man. We were in Australia on holiday, and I remember we were in Adelaide, and we were apparently staying in a really nice hotel, and I walked in, and because it didn't have a 200-foot ceiling with some ridiculous statue, I was like, shit. Do you know what I mean? And then I had to have a word with myself outside, like, get over yourself, because Dubai just spoils you.
It does.
For what's conceived to be normal.
And it's just become more and more and more. I mean, I've been away the last couple of years. I've been back and forth, but even the progress in 2 years has been immense, and it's certainly in the prices of property out here. Looking to rent again, and it's just insane.
Well, we were on the Palm for 7 years, and to be honest, wasn't that fussed about leaving it because the Palm had taken a very different turn. I've got 3 kids, like young kids.
Oh, wow.
And before it was very kind of family orientated, and now it's just Ibiza on steroids. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
it's like, the whole West Beach, and we overlooked West Beach.
Okay.
And then it was just every night, it was and the worst was as well, it was down, I think it's like Lucky Fish or one of them, like that was opposite us. The worst is I'd be sat on our balcony, and the DJ, every night at the same time, you would hear like, and then all of a sudden it would just be this,
smoke machines. And
I never knew what he said, though, but it was the same thing he said every night, and I have no idea what it was. And it drives me mad. But yeah, so we moved there to Al Farjan.
Okay.
And it's got to be...
I lived there for a while as well.
Yeah, it's nice, we like it. But at the moment, the way it is we ended up paying quite a bit over what I'd budgeted in my head. Still thought we got a good deal.
So you bought there?
No.
So you still renting?
Yeah, we were looking to buy end of last year, and I said, we'll rent for a year, see what the market does. If it doesn't go down, it doesn't go down. We know that, that's what the market's going to be for a while. But I just didn't want to, obviously borrow from the bank and then end up in a house that's then 1 million dirhams less than its value because the bank doesn't care. I still owe the bank that money,
Yeah.
So...
Well, I mean, I'd seen an article the other day, and it's like something like 6,500 ultra-high net worth individuals just from the UK moving to Dubai or something in the next 12 months.
It's that whole remote working visa now, isn't it? And that's the big still. I was chatting to an old colleague of mine, Damien, about it, and Yeah, it was pretty much, he just said, well, the thing is the population's going up, but maybe people just are richer. Yeah. The people coming here are just wealthier, and that's the difference, you know?
It's not now, it's no longer like a hardship post to come here. People are coming here and choosing it over London, over these other cities.
Wouldn't you?
Well, exactly. They've just gone to hell, haven't they?
No, well, that's, even just the amount of people I knew that went back to the UK, because for some reason, people go, oh, yeah, home's where the heart is. And then they get back and I'm like, well, this is pretty shit, actually. Yeah. And then it's like they're back in Dubai like 6 months later.
After you've walked past your 12th smackhead down the road. It's like,
that is exactly it, It's like I had it, we're way back to Scotland in a couple of weeks for my grandfather's 90th. And, in my head, I'm like, I can't wait. But I had it as well, went back, I was in London, and in my head I was like, oh, I can't wait, it's going to be so good, fresh air. By the time I got to the taxi rank in Heathrow, I was ready to come back to Dubai.
Yeah.
That's how long it literally took. Smart gates, taxi rank, and I was like, yeah, no.
It doesn't take long.
It's still shit, it's like...
And you land in Dubai and it's just impressive immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Right? From the airport to the whole, grandeur of everything that you see.
No, it is, and it is great, but it is becoming very expensive, especially like, I've got my daughters are both in school, so when you got the school, the rent, the cars, and all of that, it adds up very quickly.
And, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast, right? It's like everybody needs to earn more money. The guests want to obviously promote their businesses and things like that. And, obviously, so it's a win-win. I get to learn, hopefully, something from the guests that come on each show. I am a wannabe entrepreneur in some sense, but not as successful anywhere near as a lot of the guests that are going to be coming on the show, and it's a great opportunity to sort of pick their brains and learn from them.
I don't know what we're missing, like from a tech industry perspective. The company's been running for 4 years now, and everyone I meet, there's like people in my daughter's school, like class, and then one guy, he's Lamborghini, and then he's got a Maserati and stuff like that. And I'm, what do you do? And he's tech. I'm going, doing what? Yeah. And it's everyone I ever meet in the tech space, and it's just always like, oh yeah, well we've actually just come back from the Maldives, it was lovely. And I'm like, oh, what do you do? They're like, oh, software development. I'm like, building what? Do you know what I mean? It's like, because we a lot of the time it's quite good because a lot of our stuff's always referral based, and then we kind of got a reputation for being the fixers.
Okay.
If that makes sense, because
come in and solve problems.
Well, what happens a lot of the time is they'll try and go down the cheap route. And more often than not, especially when someone's like starting out and whatnot, you don't have a chief technical officer, you don't have an IT person with an IT background to actually kind of run the due diligence of these companies. So they spend an arm and a leg trying to get these systems up and running. And there's huge communication issues, just from the kind of regions that typically have the larger development houses. And what you do is you get this huge like yes mentality. So, instead of, a lot of the time we'll sit with a client, we follow something called the agile process. So it's planning and collaboration, design tools, development, then something called CI/CD, and then it goes into a staging environment for testing and things, and then we deploy it live. And, but we'll push back on a lot of things. The client, there was one client, God, we used to have a bingo, how many times they were going to say AI.
People hear these buzzwords, don't they? And then they're like,
synergy,
we need AI.
Synergy, AI, and blockchain.
Right, yeah.
And I'll never be like facetious with it or anything like that, and definitely not arrogant, because why should you know if it's not part of your industry?
Of course, yeah.
And it is shoveled down your neck. There is, but you get people, like FMCG, and they're like, oh yeah, fuck, we specialize in these bananas. And then they're like, they're not selling as well, let's put a vegan sticker on it.
Right.
And it's like, well, yeah, it's a fucking banana, but they sell more.
Of course. Have you heard of Rory Sutherland?
No.
You'd really love him. He's a marketing guy that's really big on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
That sort of thing is really hit up his street, like, by throwing a vegan sticker on something.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, one of the things he'd said about was like the London Overground, and nobody used it at all until they put it on the underground map. And then everyone's like, oh, wow.
Yeah. No, but it is. But it is amazing, And so the thing is, though, it's like AI is in the name. It's artificial intelligence, right? So you have a lot of different algorithms that you can run, or they're called wrangling models, right? There's a big difference between the two. So we do a lot with machine learning and deep learning. But that's
Which has
when
been
you,
around for
a
number of years
Oh,
now.
mate, yeah. Well, God, pretty much since data was a thing on computers, And so running these models, so people go, oh, yeah, we'll use AI to predict it. And I'm like, well, we'll use machine learning because we'll write the models to how to wrangle that data. Because what happens is you can put 4, 5, 6 data sets in one place. It goes through a wrangling model, but you only get one output. And that's why, like, when people ask for, like, AI in their systems, it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, it's great now because you've got all these fantastic plugins. But what a lot of people forget is ChatGPT has tens of billions of dollars of investment.
Yeah.
So when we get someone who's building a system or want a system build, and they've got a 50,000 USD budget for it, and then they want to introduce AI or machine learning,
and they probably don't want ongoing costs.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
And they don't understand how much it costs to run these things.
Well, no, but that's
like ChatGPT is, if you're a power user on ChatGPT, they're running it at a loss.
Absolutely.
Like, massively, because
Yeah.
you use the API and you can see the costs that they're actually charging for the API. So it's like...
Absolutely. And, a huge amount of the data, the thing is obviously that it's all layered, isn't it? So, you kind of like, they'll be using an awful lot of their own data of what people are using ChatGPT for other things that obviously outweigh the cost of doing that at running at a loss, And, but yeah, that's where it gets really difficult, is this whole AI mentality. And look, it is great. And like, we are very, very firm believers in like blockchain and things like that, because it is very, very safe. And it's a great way to do things. But again, a lot of people don't understand it. They just love the word.
Yeah, I mean, it's to be honest, it's an area of technology that even myself, I'm not massively familiar about.
Yeah.
Like, I've never thus far, unfortunately, got into crypto and things like that. That's maybe something I should have done previously.
No,
but maybe we just sort of hold on that then, and just sort of, for the audience, sort of delve a little bit deeper into what blockchain is from like a fifth grader sort of level.
Yeah, well, honestly, mate, it's essentially, it's like, it's just a very, very secure way to create processes. So, it's like, one of the next systems that we're going to release in-house is called Real AI State.
Okay.
And again, the AI is the buzzword. I mean, we might incorporate AI down the line, but it will be like a blockchain repository system where, there's an awful lot of processes that are still quite archaic out here. And one of them, in my opinion, and like controversially, I've had a lot of real estate agents really angry at me for wanting to do this.
Right, okay.
But when we moved into our place in Al Farjam, for example, I didn't meet the real estate agent until I was signing the check for his commission.
They do that.
But that's exactly, and the keys
the
in.
door's unlocked.
Well, that's exactly the keys in the electric box. Go help yourself. If you like it, let me know. Here's the map to get there. Yeah. And essentially, what happened was I was like, but this process never changes. The document never changes, and all of that stuff. But at the same time, I've been a landlord here in the past, and things like that. When you get the deposit, you spend it.
Yeah.
You do. You should never be allowed to. So essentially, like, what we're doing is we're also building a system for a company called Property Check. They go in and they run. They're a brilliant company, to be fair. But they go in and they come in, they inspect everything, using the application, and that outputs a report. Yeah. Exactly, and then what all faults are and things. And we want to introduce a 30-point check of the unit. And then what happens is, so you've got a tenant moving in, they'll make their payment into the blockchain.
Right.
And it's against that 30-point check. So then what happens is the landlord never gets that. That's held in escrow.
It just
sits there as it should.
Yeah.
And then, the tenant's there, great. And then the thing is as well, because you have brilliant document repositories in the blockchain as well, it's all very, very secure. People can't, it's not impossible to, but it's very difficult to steal data or anything from, a blockchain system. And from that, it's like all of your documents are there. We can automate all the processes very easily, even Ijari creation. It's all literally a portal. All you do is you just run the API sequence for it. And then, so it's like, cool, put my deposit down. I've transferred the money to the real estate agency. I've got my tenancy contract sent to me. I've digi-signed it. That's all approved. Bang, held in there.
You've got all that UAE pass and all that.
Exactly. And and kind of from that perspective, though, it's a sequential process that never changes. I've never, unless it's a completely private agreement where, I don't know what, but, it never should change. And at the same time, if we did do it, it's a bolt-on for real estate companies. It's not us trying to take on the real estate market.
Right.
It's literally a...
help them streamline their
Well, it gives them the
processes.
digital arm. So we'll essentially say, cool, the only thing we charge is we don't charge any percentage of commission, but the maximum commission allowed on the digital platform is 2%.
Okay.
They're not allowed to go higher than that. So you might have 50, 60 listings in EMAR South or whatever it is. Now, I don't know how many real estate agents it would take to look after that many properties, especially if there was a lot of viewings that day. So why not digitalize that process? You still get a commission for it. It automates the full process, but also at the same time, you might be able to reduce your headcount in-house or have a larger focus on maybe the bigger earners. Okay. But again, it stops the feeling of essentially robbed, probably is not the right word, but certainly
short-changed, I think.
Yeah.
And because, if you're paying, and don't forget, obviously, with rent prices and stuff having doubled in the last couple of years.
Well, that's it,
It's
man.
like all real estate agents are now earning twice as much money and potentially doing less work than they were before.
Well, that's exactly it. And, I was writing a check for 10,000 dirhams to someone I'd never met. And I think we only had 3 WhatsApp exchanges, and that was literally it. And I was going, this just doesn't seem right, And, I'm thinking really from a consumer perspective, but, we're not going to set up a new company for it. It's literally just going to be a SaaS product that you can white label to suit your company. It's very easy to embed into your website, and then that's it, really. So you can have your listings, and you say, like, I call it just a real estate company called like Real Dubai or whatever, and just go Real Dubai Digital, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. So it's funny. One of my questions that I put together, I think, was like the tech scene. It's always quite difficult to decide what to focus on, right, and what to work on. And is that something that you found challenging?
Oh,
over the years?
absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Because the market's so oversaturated with what people think is tech relevant, in my opinion. So everything, if you're not considered to be worthy of, I don't know, crowdfunding or investment, if you're not fintech, crypto, blockchain, AI, and it's like, well, how many payment wallets are needed, really? And then the problem is as well, your bank will just release its own e-wallet, its own fintech arm. And then you're like, well, if all my money's already with the bank.
CBDCs are definitely coming, aren't they? Like,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that's the thing. And again, it's like, I definitely think like sustainable cloud solutions would be a big thing. There was a lad I grew up with in Spain, and I think he's vice president of business development or something, and they're called NextGen, and they've got some brilliant processes to become more sustainable from an energy perspective of data centers and what have you. Yeah. And that's actually something I've been in discussions with another company based out of the US, and it's trying to use like agricultural farming, so like your kind of compost and your waste, right, to be able to produce energy. So they've got like a machine that essentially converts it into, zero emission,
heat,
but
right?
Exactly, produce a lot of heat. And I'm like, well, surely that'd be a great way to build sustainable data centers, because the actual energy pool of any kind of data center is ginormous. Yeah. It's huge. I think it'd be cool, like down the line, farming is such a difficulty anywhere in Europe at the moment. Jeez, you see what's going on in France and Germany and all that.
I'm watching Clarkson's Farm at the moment, if you've seen it. And that's the reason I even knew that there was so much heat generated from...
it's incredible.
From
from cow pat
exactly,
alone, it can spontaneously combust.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And but what would be really cool, Jesus, this is pipe dream shit, but it'd be great that you could almost have hosted data centers on farms. And then what's quite cool is you introduce this almost like market model where instead of using your AWSs and your Azures and all of that stuff, you can just plug into whichever's the nearest data center to host your own data. But then, say, the farm would get a percentage of that revenue because they're hosting it locally. Do you know what I mean? And you could do it that way. And at least, you kind of got your more domestic revenue getting driven there without having to, because governments aren't really subsidizing that much farming at the moment, and I don't come from a farming background. Like, it sounds like I'm really but at the same time, I don't know. I just feel like
they have the land, they have the space,
and they've
got energy that's sat there.
Well, that's
not being used.
exactly it.
Because it's not like the manure and stuff can't then be used as fertilizer still, because it doesn't need to be hot
No, exactly.
to be used as fertilizer.
And a lot of the time, though, you get like mulch and stuff like that, which can't be used as fertilizer anyway. You know, so there's a lot there. So I'm a firm believer in that. But when it comes to like cryptos and stuff, I was actually at a brilliant blockchain summit, and it was a really impressive lad. I've forgotten his name, but and he described crypto perfectly. It's like all crypto is just an experiment, you know. And it's like most of your cryptocurrencies or your coins, or whatever you want to call them, their valuation is based completely on what their marketing budget is. So what does that tell you? It's literally like, oh, well, if you've got $50 million in your marketing budget, that means that we can value what this coin's going to be, you know, because it's that many people you can reach who are going to buy into it.
And it seems like very much driven by influence as well within
massively.
that particular community or circle. I know, you know, you've got people on X and stuff pushing different coins, and you know, and some people make a lot of money, sure, and I'm sure lots of people lose a lot of money as well.
And that's and I've met a lot of people. Like, I know a lot of people who have done very well off Bitcoin and things like that.
Shit coins or whatever they're called. And
yeah, I mean, like, look, Shiba Inu. Like, I got in Shiba. Like, it was just one of those ones that spiked like 12.5 million times or percent or something, and I was like, oh. I just put $100 in that. Yeah. I lost it swiftly, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like it can spike that much, but try getting the money out.
Well, that's exactly. Well, who's going to buy it at that price, exactly, you know? Yeah. And that's the whole thing. I mean, it's not a tangible asset in any shape or form. You know, what does it do? Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it's great for like unregulated transfers and things like that, or getting money or payments out of a country that might be difficult. Like we do a huge amount of work in South Africa, for example, and the central bank in South Africa. There's an awful lot of red tape and paperwork and things like that to become a listed entity with our clients, just because you have to. It's a bit similar to Australia. You have to prove why are you using an international company and not another company, and it can take like 13 weeks just to get the approval.
And then you've got currencies as well around the world that are just being devalued at such massitive rates as well. That, you don't want to be taking their currencies. Well, either you use the US dollar, and then loads of people. I think Saudi announced last week that they're going to be coming off the dollar standard for their oil.
Yeah, they were talking about that.
So yeah, it's.
But that's the thing, and you know, well, South Africa's actually been quite tricky for us because we do a lot in the telecommunications space out there, and we're building a huge. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but for one of the biggest telecommunications companies out there, we're building their debt collection system. Okay. Which is it's a really, really cool system. It's huge, but the problem is that's been. We actually, I think, signed it off, no word of a lie, today. We finished the user acceptance testing today. Right. Well, we'll see. When the money comes into the account, then it'll be happy days. But but the problem is because the rand, the South African currency, has devalued so much over the last year and a half, we've lost 25% of that contract. Because when we signed it, we agreed at an exchange rate of 4 rand. And I think it's sat at 5.1 now. And I'm like, well... I was like, is that us? I was whatever it is. So
Let's
now
look at the details on that contract.
We're doing quite a lot in the educational space at the moment here and also in South Africa, and building systems for the kind of the authorities. And on this one that we've just been awarded, I've had to put in like a full caveat into the agreement, like these prices are based on this exchange rate. The exchange rate will be reviewed every 2 months and will be adjusted accordingly, and it has to be on a dynamic model.
You only make that mistake once, right? You know.
Yeah. The problem is it was. Oh, sorry. The problem is that it was quite a costly mistake, you know. But again, we had no idea kind of what the volatility of that currency was going to do, because the thing is, if you kind of hedge it at a certain amount, I guess it could work both ways, really, because it could then drop to like 2 rand or something like that. I mean, it never would. And then we'd be like, you know.
It's no wonder that international business, you know, is often done in dollars, right? You know, and people still do that. But I guess if you're working with government entities,
it's
you always want to use their currency.
Oh, it's non-negotiable, mate.
You would.
But a lot of them won't have dollar accounts.
Yeah.
You know, as well. So that would become a big problem. So, and for me, I'm such a firm believer in, like, if you could get the money, just take it.
Yeah.
Because so much can happen a day.
Well, yeah, it could go the other way if you're lucky.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, it's just trying to get it sorted that way. And look, it's not necessarily an easy space because our biggest problem is we're hordes of industry, really. We are completely bespoke in the systems that we build. And whilst it's great, we've done some really cool projects. We've done stuff for Adidas. We're doing stuff for Deloitte at the moment, Vodafone, all these kind of like bigger companies. It's actually the smaller ones which are more fun because there's a lot less strain on the client relationship. Like you take like some of the bigger clients, there's no room for negotiation. If you've given them a deadline and you miss that deadline, they're like, right, well, these are the penalties that we're going to impose.
The impact up the chain on a larger company could be worth potentially millions of dollars a day.
Oh, right? Absolutely, mate, absolutely. Like, like we've seen some of the figures of these telcos, and even I think like hourly downtime is in the hundreds of thousands of dirhams, and that's hourly, and you're just like, oh my god. But the problem is it's an awful lot of the same conversation happening over and over again. Do you have these requirements X, Y, and Z, or we've got this and this and this, and it's always this kind of there's no real exit plan. Well, there is now, but it took us quite a while to realize that we have to have our own internal products that are going out as well to market on a software as a service base. Because whilst it's all great and well, we'll maybe have 12, 15 projects on the go at once.
They're just one-offs and then they end.
Yeah, pretty much. So we've always got to have this continuous pipeline of work overlapping. But then what happens with that as well is that obviously we need to grow the team to suit that. And that's where we got hit really hard in November last year. Like, we'd had our record month. Everything was great. It was the biggest the team had ever been. And I remember I kind of took everybody out for dinner. My business partner was in town. And I was like, took a deep breath. And I was like, finally done it.
I'm on the way.
Fucking, And then next thing you know, it was, we had this big project that just fell away. And because we were guaranteed that big project, we didn't entertain any of the other conversations going on. So we were kind of like, that's great because it was year end. What we'll do is we'll get this project underway and then we'll kind of look at it again in the beginning of the year. Anyway, and it was a big, big project. And anyway, it just, they just put a pin in it. We're like, look, sorry, we've kind of realized we don't see this as an urgent requirement for us and we're going to put a pin in it indefinitely, which is essentially, we're not fucking doing it. It is what it is. And I was like, oh shit, okay. And
you start to plan for those things.
Well, we had, mate. We hired like 3 additional developers and all this shit. And the problem is in Dubai, one thing that Dubai does do, which I don't like, is how fast the time goes by in Dubai. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Blink of an eye, we're halfway through the year. And the same goes for salaries. So next thing you know, we had this pipeline that was still kind of there, but we hadn't been pushing to start the work because we were trying to segment it accordingly. That next thing you know, it's like, salaries need to go out. The office rent. Salaries are going out again, and all this stuff. And next thing you know, it was like, oh shit, we don't have this recurring revenue stream, which our SaaS products will allow for. But the difference is again, the valuation of our company. Whilst great, we've got some great ins with companies. We've got some great perspectives in terms of, anytime they want more work done, they'll come to us, which is a good place to be. But it doesn't give us a valuation.
No, I mean, you'll never get VC and funding really as just essentially an agency that goes.
So we've been approached by a couple of different companies. We do a lot of work with one specific company, which I'll give a shout out to, Akoku, fantastic company, a guy Liam Page from Bristol, really, really switched on guy, and he was actually so I restructured the whole company pretty recently. Okay. When I started the company, I always thought the bigger we are, the better we are. I was completely wrong. I was, because we ended up big office, loads of people, and all it took was a couple of bad months, kind of here and there, and just clients not paying. It wasn't a matter of not having the work. We're the busiest we've ever been. Clients not paying. And for some reason, that's a standard out here that's allowed. That's okay.
And what do you do about it? Well, then there's expenses to try and pursue them or whatever.
Well, that's it, man. And we, we always have the collateral. We'll never migrate a system across to someone else's servers until we're fully paid up for it. Okay. But then we'll go, well, look, we're just going to have to switch off your system. And then they'll go, well, that's fine, do that. But we'll come back with a counterclaim for how much money we lose because you've done this. And it's a bit like, okay, you know.
Rocking a hard place.
Well, yeah, pretty much, you know. And then, you know, because a lot of the development we do, it's all like phased development and phased work. So there's a lot of like, well, that's fine. But you can kiss that scope goodbye. Yeah. You know, and look, we do get the payments eventually. They just take a minute.
They just love to drag it out, right?
Well, they do. And I thought, right, you know, we've worked with other entities at times where they've had to come on board with sprints. And like I said, our main remit is mainly more the project management side of things. You know, we're a team of team of engineers in the company. You know, it's like I've got Kevin McDonald, and he's mechanical engineering with product design, and he's so unbelievably technical. He understands it so well, you know. And then Max, you know, I used to work on the rigs with Max, but he was on the data acquisition unit side of things, and he's brilliant, but he's very hands-on. He's great to have on site. You know, he's even in Deloitte today and testing everything, you know, and what have you. So. And then I've got Chris and Andrew and things. And what I've done is I've just stripped back the team massively. And we've partnered with another company. And then we've got another 2 partnerships that are going to happen. So essentially what we're kind of doing is creating this syndicate, so to speak, for the development arm of the work, where we'll know who's best. We still retain some in-house developers within the company because we have to offer that local support. But in terms of the kind of not mundane, but the more tedious side of things that are more time-consuming, labor-intensive, you know, developers aren't cheap here.
No.
You know, and then what happened was, you know, we'd be building like a CRM, a customer relationship management portal, and all of a sudden I'm kind of looking at it and going, well, we're getting paid this, but you're costing this. And then you might be busy on something else. I need to bring 2 other of the team working on it. And all of a sudden, you just kind of see that margin slipping away. And I'm like, oh, right, this just isn't working, you know? So we got that. And there's a big, big focus on pushing 3 of our internal systems out, which we will hopefully actually be able to get pre-seed funding for, you know, because like one of them's brilliant. It's called the Engine. Okay. So we've used the Engine on about 100 projects. It's a system that builds systems. So I'm not a developer, but I can build systems through it.
Oh, nice.
It's really, really cool. And but what's cool as well, it outputs in different coding languages. So at the moment, it does it on ASP, Classic, .NET, React, Express, JS, and then now we're doing it so we can. All we have to do is build in a few modules in a certain language. So Flutter, we do a lot. There's a Google-based language called Flutter.
Just Cook. Just Cook is my meal kit company in Dubai. We've been founded in 2014, back in June, and today we are launching the Undefined Podcast, sponsored by Just Cook. So check them out, justcook.ae, and we hope you enjoy them.
Our engine will be able to, probably by the end of next week, now be able to create progressive web apps on Flutter.
But the good thing with Flutter is that is multi-platform as well, so you can output to, Mac and everything else.
Well, that's exactly it. So the thing is we've been using it. It's very rugged at the moment because we've always just been using it for ourselves. Right. But we built a fully functioning customer relationship management portal for one of our clients in 2 hours. So we can put
high leverage software then, yeah?
Well, that's it. It's unbelievable. And then, so the plan is to do it on a phased development structure where the next phases of it, once we can output in pretty much any language, we'll then create a more modular approach for it. So people the main kind of target demographic are people looking for their own pre-seed and investment runs. Because what happens is they're trying to do it normally with presentations. Or they'll go to a dev company and try and create this demo, but then be stuck with this demo because it's coded in a certain way. Whereas we'll go, well, look, it's absolutely fine. We can build it in a day. Yeah, so you can. And it'll be ready to go
for those client meetings. You can literally go in.
Exactly.
Like, look at
and then the plan will be, we'll go like, look, cool, that's absolutely fine. Happy days. Do you want us to build the system as well for you? And that's one option. And then the other one is to essentially have it as a subscription service to small to medium development houses. Okay. Yeah. Because even when we had like 9 projects on the go, you end up getting this, like, because of the scope creep side of things, you're almost like, in terms of time, robbing Peter to pay Paul. So you're pulling developers off this to go on this, developers on this, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh shit, we missed that milestone. You know, and with this, it's you can get rid of that, you know, because you might have these smaller dev companies who are overcapacitated but not getting paid because they're missing the timelines and the deadlines and things, and this should hopefully get rid of that. And then we'll have it so that it can build blockchain systems and what have you, and then just keep packaging it up that way.
So you think that's kind of BBArray's main focus now?
It will be,
that
yeah.
software?
Like, we'll definitely keep doing the standalone dev stuff because we have ongoing projects like for the foreseeable future. But there will definitely be a very, very heavy push on those aspects of it, 100%. Because like I said, and the difference is it's an actual tangible system that can be valued. You know, it's a system that reduces development time by over 60%, but it's also one developer can build the whole system. You know, so we've got that, and then I guess we'll build real AI state, and I've got a game that I'm gonna get built.
Oh, nice.
I think it's a cool idea.
I'm a lot like you, I think, where you just can't help yourself, and I don't know if that's the right attitude to have, but it's also sort of, you just sort of want to discover, you want to build, you want to.
Well, the thing is, mate, you know, you don't ask, you don't get, you don't try, you can't fail, kind of thing, you know, without sounding too cliche. So, you know, what happens is that I remember when I first started the company, Gareth and myself, it was called BrewBuddy.
Okay.
And it was incorporating demographic analytics, you know, like people counting, mood, age, and gender.
Touch on that, right? So you had like facial recognition.
Yeah.
Type. So tell us about that project.
Yeah. So that was originally a software as a service system, and it was brilliant. It really was. And essentially, what we were doing is we were putting in these cameras, but they were fully binary, so they never recorded anything. It was all local processing at the unit. So, you know, it was like GDPR compliancy. You were never stealing anyone's data or personal information kind of thing. So what we did was we'd created this list of every single venue in the country, all of the information, and we'd created this kind of like, I call it a mega app. And essentially the app had every single venue in the country, all of its offers that were on their website and what have you. And then the next plan or phase was, we had it in biddies and we had it in McGettigans for a minute. You could then have the footfall, the mood, age, and gender of the people coming in real time. And then what the system would do is it would run the analytics of the performance of those offers in terms of the age, the gender sets, and the footfall counts. And then what it would do is it would log all of that data in like a repository. And because everything was real time, if it ever noticed that it was maybe like 70%, 80% male occupancy, it would then notify the manager or the marketing team, run this promotion because it had the fastest success for female response.
Right. Okay.
And it would do that, and then eventually you could tie it in with your kind of revenue base, you know, your point of sale system, so it could then deduce which categories of persons or which demographics were spending what. So who your key earners, you know. We saw spikes in expenditure from the ages of 25 to 30 between the 25th to the 1st of the month because that was obviously payday. Yeah. But what we found was actually more of your demographic of 35 to 45 years old males were the typical recurring spenders through the month.
Spenders as well,
and that was it. But then we also saw a spike in expenditure of that age demographic when we had younger girls coming in, you know, obviously for the conversation. Yeah. But it was, and the end game with BrewBuddy essentially was supposed to be, we would do regional indexing of all of that data. So, you know how like here you have hotels, which are essentially husks. Right. And then they go out for tender and operators will come in, your Hiltons, your Marriotts, whatever it would be. Essentially the system would become a consultant. So it would say, cool, you're going into the Palm Jumeirah in this vicinity. This is what the average footfall is. This is the average responses for these kind of things. So you should put in an Italian restaurant, a sports bar, X, Y, and Z, and then run these promotions with it. And unfortunately for us, our target clients were only venues and restaurants, and then COVID hit, and every venue and restaurant on the planet closed, you know. And we had this in-house development team, and we started getting kind of little inquiries here and there, and then there was one for a logistics platform build. And I was like, yeah, we could build it. And we did. We got paid for it, and then we got another immersive language system. We built that, and I thought, well, I guess this is the route.
I mean, that's interesting. It's a kind of similar story to this business here. Obviously, set up Just Cook originally, and the orders sort of were petering out, and then it's like, right, we need to do something else to bring in orders. Then we went into sort of more generic catering as well, and that sort of kept us going. And but just touching back on the Brew Buddy, what are you doing with that now then? That software still sits there.
Yeah, it is just pretty much sat there really. There's times where I'm like, oh yeah, definitely need to restart that. And every time I speak to someone about it, because the difference is there was never, not once. So I met the Hilton group, I met the Marriott group, I met Accor, I met with every single hospitality group out here, Sunset Solutions, Admine, Sequoia, every single one of them. No one ever said no. They might say, oh look, not really the right time right now, but a lot of them were like, yeah, we're super interested. And there was a reason why, I had a nice job beforehand, with Strainstall and what have you, but it got to the point where it was just any time we were ever out in a restaurant, we were in a bar, and I would say, cool, can I, have a chat with your manager? And I told them about the system. They're like, yeah, we'd be all over that. And I think it was when we got to 40 venues, which had pretty much confirmed that they'd sign up. I was like, oh, cool, we're going to...
Something here, definitely.
Well, that was it. All we needed was an installation team. We had we'd already created the APIs and the plugins for the actual software in its own right. And it was kind of just ready to roll out that way. We didn't need a big team, but we essentially had, anywhere between $15,000 to $30,000 of monthly revenue that was going to come in straight off the bat. And then we were hoping for this big kind of snowball effect with it. And then the second we got to whatever it was going to be, I think it was, we were saying once we got to 100 venues was when we'd go in for the pre-seed funding. Not pre-seed funding, the first round of funding, and do it that way. And then the end game would literally be to hopefully get a big kind of consulting arm to buy us. Do you know what I mean?
In terms of funding, then what's your view been on that? I mean, do you have a network that you already have in place where you think you could go and sort of source funding?
Yeah, absolutely, mate, absolutely. I'm quite fortunate actually because I play a lot of golf.
Right. Yeah.
And I've been paired up with a lot of people, but kind of through those networks and those arms. I mean, I was playing golf last week, and literally the guy I was playing with, I know him really, really well, and he turned around to me and he was like, "Do you know anybody?" Or he's like, "You're in tech." He's like, "Do you know anyone that can build blockchain systems and AI systems quickly?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Mate," "you're not going to believe this." I was like, "But we do. We have something called the engine, and that is in our plan to do it. But I need funding to build it to how it really needs to be built properly. I don't want to do slapdash anymore." And he was like, "Well, look," he's like, "this company is this hedge fund. They literally have X amount ready to go." He's like, "We just need a sales deck from you." And I was like, "Cool." So pretty much got that finished now. The biggest problem is knowing how much to ask for.
Exactly.
That's my problem, because
you can try and look at comps and all this sort of stuff, and then we're talking about just UAE here, right? I'm guessing, and then you also need to think about the global scale as well.
Well, these guys, they want to do it literally to roll it out in the UK and the US. So and it's just like that, And there was another system called Red Halo, which is really cool, which I thought of a year and a half ago, and essentially gets rid of cash flow problems for SMEs. Okay. And it's I can't go too much into it because it's...
Don't want to give it all away.
Pretty much. And the thing is, we were pledged $2 million by a company to do it, but unfortunately, I just really didn't trust the person I was chatting to. So we just kind of stopped communication entirely for that. And then, again, the problem is we get really busy on certain things, so we lose that time to keep that focus. So that's why kind of scaling down, focusing on what we have at the moment, but then giving me free rein to really start driving, the kind of the engine and real AI state and stuff like that. And then that's going to be the key focus. And
so you've got to pay the bills, right? So
that's exactly it, mate. And so we're just kind of, we've got a few systems that are nearly ready for handover, and then with that, if they want to kind of go into phase 2, if it's a huge scope, then we'll probably say no. Just because I really want to focus on this. But again, a lot of it just depends on the funding arm of those things. But Jesus Christ, I mean, you look at like this company Builder.ai, right? Incredible platform. And they build native applications and what's the other one? Native apps and I think it's websites. They just did their 4th round of funding, $250 million.
That's crazy.
They're tied in with the Qatari investment fund. And I'm going, well, the engine theoretically does more in terms of complexity than that. And I'm going, who do they speak to? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, what do you think the key is there? I mean, obviously they've got a much larger, I mean, the 4th round of funding, right? So they've obviously got a much larger client base at this time. What's the key metric, do you think, that people that are handing out these massive checks are looking for?
Mate, I think a lot of it's timing. I think an awful lot of it as well is, you know, I guess kind of coining the industry and just having the right metrics in front of them. Literally going, look, this is how much is being spent on these items kind of as a whole. We could easily consolidate these into a single platform that can build it all for the average consumer. And yeah, I think a lot of it's that. And an awful lot of it as well is you need to keep it open enough to be able to merge with other systems. So, because what happens a lot of the time is like it's a huge problem. You see it with a lot of Microsoft Dynamics platforms, you know, and it's great because you can sign up for a warehouse management system for $29 a month. And it's like, oh, brilliant. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh, but to install it's going to cost you $100,000. Right. And then Microsoft sends someone to sit there like an actual dynamic specialist. And then it's like, oh, okay, but we have this legacy system that we have to keep using. So that needs to time with that. Oh, I see. Well, for that, you need these 6 connectors, and they're $30,000 each. And the amount of times that we've met with companies, we had one company came to us, and they were like, yeah, we've already spent $1.2 million. And the quote we just got to tie in our legacy system was $298,000, and we thought it was dirhams. It was dollars. And I'm like, good for Microsoft, you know, like, and but that's our biggest problem. People come to us, but they've already spent all their budget. Yeah. You know,
and they want you to fix the mess.
And more often than not, it's such a mess. We're like, look, we're just gonna have to rebuild the whole thing, but it won't take that long. And they're like, oh, okay, well, how much is it going to cost? I'm like, well, how much did you spend on this? They're like, oh, I don't know, $150,000. I'm like, well, ideally it would cost $150,000. Like, oh, we've only got 20 left. And I'm like, well, this is what you're going to get for 20. And then somehow they still managed to get the full fucking system built. But, you know, I'm a very firm believer in like long-term strategies and, you know, and it is such a shame. I hate it so much. Like, we had it with a guy and he spent £20,000 on his website. £20,000. And it was a static WordPress site, 5 pages. And I was just like, I even said to him, I said, do you want me to write on a company letterhead that we've reviewed your website, they have to reimburse you or something? I was like, because you spent $100,000. He goes, well, how much would you charge? I said, honestly, for this site, I was like, it would take us a day. I was like, maybe 10,000 dirhams tops. Ride, you know, and he just fleeced them entirely. And he was like, oh, you know, and he's a great guy. He was like, oh, well, you know, it is what it is.
He's obviously got enough money.
And I was like, give it to me. You know, I'll take it, you know. And it was like that. So, you know, but there's a huge opportunism kind of mentality, I do believe, when it comes to development. And unfortunately as well, you know, you get these wonderful people who just essentially might have a long-running system. We're actually in discussions for it right now with a couple of companies out here. They're like a syndicate of societies in the schooling side of things. And, you know, the society's been running for 30 years. Right. So it's all been, you know, it's all like fully fledged. They've got their trade license and stuff, but they've got one tiny generic website. You know, they try and use just a kind of like freebie app to get everything going, but it's just not working, you know. So they've come to us and chatting to them, you know, and they openly say, like, look, we know nothing about this. And I'm like, look, well, that's fine. You know, I'll try and explain it as easily as possible. I was like, but bear in mind, you know, it is still a system. It still will cost money, you know, but it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. And we can be flexible. We're always happy to be flexible with people to try and be within their budget. You know, we do it an awful lot. We'll say, look, it'll take 3 months to build the system. And we'll give you 3 options. You know, you can either pay for everything up front, you're going to get 15% off. You pay 50% up front, we'll give you 10% off, and then you can go on to 3 monthly installments. And if you want to go on to literally monthly installments for a year, then, you know, it's actually going to be 10% more. Yeah. But
I always like to work back from a budget, but so many people, I don't know whether it's the UAE, but so many people are so hesitant to give a budget. It's like, just tell me how much you want to spend, and if anything, you'll get more.
Mate, absolutely.
Because at least I'd know, okay, this is how much it is. Now I'll put together the best possible proposal for this amount of money.
Absolutely. So the most successful projects we've ever had without hiccups is when I've literally gone, how much have you got to spend on this? And they'll go, the cheapest quote we got, or the most expensive quote, the cheapest quote we got was $38,000. I said, okay. And what were the payment terms? I said, I think it was 5 months. I said, I'll tell you what. I was like, why don't we do it for $38,000, but we'll do it for 6 months? And they're like, fine, okay. But when you know how much they can spend, because our biggest problem is, and we've got it with a client right now, we'll do the payments for the system build on monthly installments. Because they're paying us monthly, they think we're on a retainer for services. Okay. And we're like, no, you've got your fucking system. Yeah. We don't work for you anymore. You just owe us for the rest of the payments for the system. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's like that. And they're like, oh, no, but we need this done to it. And I'm like, cool, I'll charge you a variation. Oh, no, absolutely not. And I'm like,
I mean, we've delivered the system.
But we've delivered the system.
On the scope that we agreed.
And we said 12 months is fine. And yeah, so that happens an awful lot as well for us. So yeah, it can be quite tricky, man. And look, I'm not saying that we're saints or anything, Yeah, we've definitely made mistakes, We've definitely bitten off more than we can chew in the past. We've gone around the wrong routes at times as well, like in terms of managing the project properly. And what happens is sometimes we'll be friendlier with other clients than we are with other ones, and just even kind of subconsciously we don't even realize we're doing it, but almost this preferential treatment towards them, But yeah, look, I mean, it's a tough industry to be in, to be honest, and what have you, and I don't know, it's a weird one. It's like, it's such a fast-moving industry, but what I've found is what everybody's kind of trying to do in the industry now, they're all targeting, because you hear about these companies getting the crowdfunding, and they're getting all of this capital and all of this investment, but where's the ROI? Do you know what I mean? It's one of those ones where I just don't understand. It's like, okay, cool, they've built this other payment gateway, and they received $150 million of funding.
Do we need?
But that's what I mean.
We've got checkout.com, we've got Stripe,
but that's exactly it, And then, at the end of the day as well, because you've got the likes of Stripe that are so big, one, they can be cheaper. Two, it's by far the safest one. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's why
it just works.
And it works, exactly.
Built for developers.
Exactly. And because it's worldwide as well, you've got worldwide support. Yeah. It's never going to go down. So when you see, they've raised $100 million to build this new payment gateway that does exactly the same thing, I kind of sit there and I'm just like,
so many more exciting projects to build. Right?
Yeah, pretty much. But I'm also like, well, how are you ever going to get that return on it? But then I also wonder, well, the whole thing with a budget, right? You have to spend your budget to get that same budget back for the following year. Because if you don't, you're kind of overlords in the company.
You use it or lose it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they're going to go, okay, well, cool. We're not signing off this budget because you only spent 80% of it last year, which just tells us you only need 80% of it. So now you've got 80%. That's what I kind of really hope happens to me. Like, somebody's going to go like, oh, look, man, we've got like $120 million to spend here. We don't know what to do. And I'm going to go, well,
It's always been the thing about the marketing profession as well, particularly because, if you're given $100,000 to spend on marketing, you don't spend it and then the company doesn't hit budget, it's your fault.
Oh, absolutely. Mate, absolutely, yeah. And, and that's the thing. It's like, there's some really cool things, but Jesus, man, BrewBuddy. So it's called adcreative.ai or something. Yeah. We had that in BrewBuddy when we started 4 years ago, and I was like, God, it was ahead of its time.
Can you not just bring BrewBuddy back and just stick an AI on the end and then?
Really sure to see if the domain still exists, BrewBuddy.ai. But the problem with BrewBuddy was the whole point of it mainly because it was a B2C but also B2B system. On the analytics front, it was fantastic, but a lot of it, the problem is, and where it kind of was difficult, was it had to tie in with the end consumer app. So what we were trying to do is create this app so all venues could have an app and had access to a demographic pool.
To be honest, from my own opinion, maybe it was too much. Maybe if you narrowed in and just gave the hotels and the venues the demographics, that would probably be valuable.
Nail on the head. So. Yeah, mate, absolutely. You are completely right. And that was the problem was, you know, I think as well, I was very excitable and young when I started it, you know, and it was one of those ones where it was just like, oh my God, we're going to be a unicorn, you know, that kind of thing. Like, you know, we were like whinnying in the office, you know, it was. And and we just, it was great at the time. And God, I met so many cool people. But yeah, unfortunately, kind of COVID happened, and then
3 kids happened, I'm guessing.
Yeah, God, yeah, Jesus Christ, it was best thing ever. But
of course, yeah.
Just, but unfortunately, then a lot of venues just like McGettigan's created Locked, you know, or Unlocked, whatever it's called, the app.
So that's the B2C side, but I'm guessing nowhere still has that B2B.
No,
sort of demographic.
No, and they don't, you know, and look, 100%. Like we still get a few inquiries for it, you know. We're still in discussions with a company in Abu Dhabi for Hudayrat Island to do the demographic analytics around their kind of marina and shopping area on like the Marsana way.
Yeah. Malls and stuff. I didn't even think about that.
So malls are already oversaturated with it.
Right, so they have that already.
Oh yeah. So
airports and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah. So airports are a bit different. Airports, they have to use much more advanced systems, LiDAR and all that, real facial recognition stuff. You know, that's then like pooled against a giant repository for, you know, obviously I guess anti-bad people.
Tourists.
Yeah. So and whereas we were trying to do it from because what happens is you just get inundated with data. And no one knows what to do with data. So turning data into information, great. Driving it to action is a whole different ballgame. And that's kind of what we did. We'd automated this platform to tell the venues.
Do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Make you more money.
Well, that was exactly it, you know. And that was kind of the ROI on the whole thing, was because that was a tricky question. Like, well, where's our return on investment? And I'm like, well, theoretically, but that was the problem. It was always theoretically.
You need that sort of. Yeah, we've been looking for that in my other business, Topolo. It's like getting those pilot projects that the actual person that's running the pilot invests themselves into it enough. And we've done a few free pilots, and what we've learned is it's like if you do anything for free, they don't put any effort in.
So we've stopped that as a company as a whole, because we really got burnt with one company for that, where they were like, oh, could we get a demo? We're like, well, we're a bespoke system builder. You know, we don't typically, I mean, we've got modules. We keep all of our modules and stuff, so we can build systems quite quickly. But we essentially built, it was this call-out maintenance application for like their 2,000 assets. But it also was like a full kind of ERP suite for them and what have you. And anyway, the only thing we didn't do was tie the back end to a server. So we'd spent like all this time and resource building this demo for them literally just to go, the boss is actually friends with this other company who has, it was called Televend or something, and they specialize in vending machines. It had nothing to do with it. They're going to go with them. And I'm like, well, thank you very much for wasting our time and money. And just off the back of that, now, if anybody ever asks for a demo, we just say, look, we can show you a similar system, or we can take you through a bunch of systems with the modules that you'll need. But no, we will not be building you a demo. But with the engine, we can,
it's a lesson learned.
Oh, yeah, man. And that's the problem is, but, you know, I'm getting a bit sick and tired of learning lessons. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and that's the thing. And it's like, look, it's great, you know, and like I said, we've met some brilliant people. I'd like to think we're pretty well regarded in our kind of space. But, you know, we're not very loud, really. We don't kind of promote ourselves out there that much. For organic inquiries, we kind of keep to ourselves and get the original referrals in, or I'll meet, people on the golf course or just at networking events and stuff. But it's quite good because we've got that kind of friendly arm to it, you know, with quite a dedicated focus to the actual project management and product design side of it. a lot of the time I'll be somewhere and they'll go, oh, mate, by the way, I need you to speak to this guy. They have this requirement. I told them it's something you can do. I hope you don't mind they gave you your number. And I'm like, mate, happy days, you know?
That's fantastic. I mean, that's one of the things where we struggle, you know, that lead generation. You know, because I've not traditionally been the best of networkers, like I was talking before, it's like, you know, without that in Dubai, I think that's huge in Dubai.
Oh, mate, and that is where Dubai is second to none. Because the thing is, look, like I said, Dubai is becoming a very expensive place, especially to have a big family. And my wife and I, we said, you know, we've spoken about it. You know, my business partner, he sits in Holland. The other business partner, he sits here in Dubai. But Kev essentially runs a lot of the company, oversees most of the team. He gets really down to nitty gritty, and I go out and I kind of drive the leads and the networking side and try and think of the bigger picture stuff. Yeah, pretty much.
The problem for me is I've given up golf right now because I'm just so bad. I was going around in about 100 shots for a while.
Mate, but that's not that bad, you know. You
just sort of dropped off from there. And
fair play. Yeah. Because I've got a theory, right, especially for midweek golf. So I'm a midweek member at the Montgomery, greatest golf club of all time. Honestly, mate,
I used to be a summer member there.
Mate, the members are second to none. I was fortunate enough, I was invited to play in the Desert Classic Pro-Am.
Okay, nice.
And I was with Richard Bland. And even Richard, he was like, he was
the guy that won a tournament, like, for the first time when he's really quite old.
So that was his best year. I think he made £343,000. Yeah. That was in 2021. He won the British Masters. He went to Live.
Right, okay.
And he was the only player not to get paid to go to Live. And I think they were saying the other day, he's now made $9 million. So he joined Live when he was 50, and he's made $9 million. I mean, that's not a bad retirement package.
You can't hate on them, really. I mean, it's like...
Absolutely.
The Saudis throw that sort of money around.
Mate, 100%. And that's actually one thing where we have dropped the ball. Like, we haven't made a push into Saudi yet. We've got a few scopes for Red Sea development, and we've got meetings for that next week. But, again, it's one of those ones. But so to go back to the golf thing, but he was saying, like, Richard was like, the Montgomery is like second son. He's like, I've played golf all around the world. He said, I've never seen camaraderie like at that club.
Another sponsor of ours, Topolo.io, sponsoring the questions using one of their Nodo devices. They're a fantastic addition to the podcast and really help me stay on track, asking questions and ensuring that there's a lot of value for our listeners. So hope you enjoy. Check Topolo out, Topolo.io.
And it's true, but as a midweek member, right, there's only 3 categories typically of people who can play golf midweek, right? Decision makers who don't have to be in the office, the unemployed, or retired. Now, it's very difficult to be retired in Dubai, first and foremost. The unemployed typically wouldn't be playing golf because it's an expensive hobby. So more often than not, when I get paired up on a random 4-ball, and there's 3 other players there, more often than not, they're a general manager or head of something, and they always have a system requirement or a data requirement and things like that. So driving the pipeline can only take 3 rounds of golf in a week. And even though it sounds ridiculous...
It's a cheap way rather than,
well, yeah,
on marketing and things like that.
And the biggest difference is as well, it's like you go to an exhibition or a networking event, right, in DWTC. Now, they spend all this money trying to sell their product, right? Why the fuck would they want to pay you for work? They're not there to take on new work. They're there to try and sell work. So... so it's very difficult to network at one of those events, first and foremost. And then secondly, a lot of the time, if you get a meeting with a company you've been trying to do, you get an hour maximum trying to sell your whatever it is. And like I said, because there's so many different arms of what we do, it can be difficult to touch on the right points because we might be going off on a tangent going, oh yeah, we've built this safety application for hazardous environments. Whereas they might need an e-commerce site built. So we rattle on for an hour about the wrong thing.
And leave.
And then leave, and they're like, oh, okay, Yeah, exactly. They're like, nice guys, just not what we need. Yeah. Whereas on the golf course, one, you don't have to push the conversation. You get 4 hours with them. And then when the conversation does happen, and you guys potentially have gotten on well, you'll have lunch after. Yeah. So now you've created this 6-hour relationship, and things like that. And that's why I find it from a networking perspective second to none. And without sounding big-headed, I'm quite a handy golfer. And so a lot of the time I'll get invited back for a game, or they'll go I'll be invited as the kind of ringer player for a golf competition they have. So there is that kind of always recurring theme that's there. And even if they don't have the requirement at the time, by then they know well enough what we do. So when that does come about, or they'll be chatting to someone who does have that requirement, that's where the referral basis comes. So
and that just all compounds, right, over time, you know.
Yeah.
The more rounds you play, the more your network builds. So
no, exactly, and that's the thing, and that's the biggest difference. Like Georgie and I, you've met Georgie,
yeah.
but it's we've spoken about it. The problem is, one, if you left Dubai, where would you go? Yeah. Right, Europe's not necessarily in the best condition right now. One, I don't really fancy paying tax. You know, and Georgie's parents, they live in Malaysia, and we're like, well, Malaysia could be an option. At least you could put some money away every year. But the problem is the networking side. Dubai is second to none when it comes to networking because, again, you could just be going for beers with people. And next thing you know, you're sat next to this guy or girl or woman or whoever it is, and they're like, oh, yeah, no, 100%. We're actually just about to release a tender for $3 million for our full digital transformation. You know, and you don't get that in the UK because no one fucking goes out.
No, and it's raining.
And it's raining, and everyone's miserable, you know? So, yeah, just kind of from that perspective, it's...
so I know you've got a few minutes, but just to draw this to an end then, so, you know, obviously from what I can tell, you know, it's been a hectic few years, and...
Yeah, I would say be turbulent.
Turbulent
is the word I would use. It's been great
technology for you, right?
But that's it, you know. And we always do strive to keep up with the trends and the norms. There's some we do roll our eyes at a little bit, and you know. And if the space is so oversaturated, we just don't bother going into it. You know, it's like AI for sure. But now, what's the point in trying to develop your own AI when you've got so many fantastic plugins?
And I think the big thing for me is it's like everybody's saying we're AI this, AI that. Are you AI?
No,
or are you just leveraging LLMs?
The best was we had a developer, Ahmed Irfan, his name was, and they were like, oh yeah, and like, do you guys use AI to build it? And I was like, AI actually built this whole thing. And it was just because it was Ahmed Irfan, it was his initials. So we would just go down that route, you know. But yeah, like, look, man, it's one of those ones where, you know, if people want AI in the system, that's fine. We'll do a ChatGPT plugin for customer support, and we're like, cool, you now have an AI system. But AI, like I said, it's in the name. It's an artificial intelligence. You know, it's a brain. It's not a matter of running data models where you go, cool, when this happens, this must happen. That's data. That's machine learning. You're putting in the rules for it. AI is where it learns from its mistakes, makes it better, and then learns from those mistakes along the way and grows by itself. You know. And that's the thing. But look, man, like, unfortunately, we've had to start saying it, you know, because you need the words of the meaning. Synergy, AI, you know what I mean? It's like money, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. It is what it is, and if that's what gets you through the door, because if I start talking about data wrangling models, deep learning algorithms...
You've got to play the game.
100%, 100%. And you guys, I'm glad you guys seem to be doing well and evolving, though. It looks fantastic.
We're evolving. We're being forced to evolve. I mean, I've learned entrepreneurial lessons the hard way, let's put it that way. And, you know, marketing has been obviously a big pain point for us over the years, and so you kind of get to crunch time, you're like, right, well, I need to do something about that.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So obviously we're getting the content made, we're obviously starting this podcast, and thanks again for...
Mate, I love this. This is cool. Like, yeah.
Us, and,
it's comfy as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
kind of straight off the bat, I feel...
homely area.
It is. It really is, yeah.
More than welcome back to come back and talk about any of the projects.
Oh, mate, anytime. I can whine for hours, mate. Like, I just realised, like, now, like, retrospectively, at the end of it, it just sounds like I've been whining for about an hour, and then I made a horse sound somewhere halfway between.
That'll do.
So
when you, other than playing golf then, what else are you doing around Dubai? How do you relax? What are you doing with your family?
Oh, mate, to be honest, yeah. So, like, on the weekends, it is just purely family time. Like, Georgie, my wife, bless her, you know, she's a stay-at-home mum. She's a fantastic mum. But, you know, through the week, 3 kids and all that stuff can be tricky. Not tricky, but just in the sense, like, you have to have those interactions. You know, you have to be out and about. So we always, you know, make a plan and we go out and do something. It might be a pool day, or we'll just go for a nice lunch, go to the mall and what have you. It's always weather permitting, really. But yeah, a lot of the time, like, if we've had like a busy week and stuff like that, and, you know, the following week, if we've got, you know, I'll say to the guys, you know, who's got like a quiet day next week, and maybe Max puts his hand up and he goes, literally got nothing on, or not much on Thursday. So I'll book like 9 holes on a Thursday morning, or I'll take the guys out for a couple of scoops, and and we just try and relax when we can. And the good thing is I'm a very firm believer in, give and take. So, the guys who go above and beyond to get things done. And if that means like recently with a project that Max is working on, he's had to do a lot of late nights. And I just messaged him. I said, look, dude, I'll just take Friday off, enjoy the long weekend before Eid, and stuff like that, and it is.
What's your favourite place for a tipple if anyone wants to come and find you?
Honestly, mate, wherever's nearest, really. No, like I said, again,
The club, I'm guessing.
I like the Monty. I go there quite a lot. Coterie is very good in Ibn Battuta. That's great. Again, it's close to the office and what have you, but typically those two, really.
Ibn Battuta Gate.
Yeah, we're at Ibn Battuta Gate, yeah. So, just kind of between those points, really, like I said, wherever is kind of most convenient and closest, really, for that time. A lot of time depends, if we've got like a client in, and depending on kind of which client they are, we've got some who are just happy to get on it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They're just like, yeah, cool, we're done, our meeting's done, let's go have a couple of drinks and like happy days. And then others might be a bit more reserved, so we'll go like, cool, do you want to go grab some food somewhere and share a bottle of wine, or it doesn't even need to be drinking. So just that, man, really.
It's hard to avoid in Dubai, I've discovered.
Mate, Dubai is like one
huge drinking culture.
Oh, massively, mate. Dubai is just one giant airport. It is always acceptable to have a beer. Yeah. It just is that mentality, But that's why, like, now, honestly, mate, like, especially since the third, my wee son, I just have to get back in the gym.
Yeah, gym and diet, I think.
Diet's a big one.
I'm not a big gym guy. I need to start to, and it's like, obviously, look, Just Cook is my business here, and that's obviously a fantastic way to be able to manage your diet as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't have much of an excuse, mate. It's
portion size, and all that sort of stuff. What I tend to do is I eat once a day.
Oh, is that right?
Once a day. I got up to 95 kilos.
Really?
In 2022.
Sorry, really?
And within 6 months of going to intermittent fasting is what they call it.
Yeah.
I dropped down to 72 kilos.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I started to just level off at that weight. And that was kind of my purpose. And it's literally, look at the BMI scale and it's like, like right in the middle. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Like my BMI scale right now is just like be myself. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, put a ring on it. I've got the babies, got the poster. I'm, but that's the thing. It's like, unfortunately, it's like when things start moving, when I brush my teeth that shouldn't, is when I know I need to get back in the gym. You know what I mean? And it was like, geez, I went over a speed bump the other day and something on my back jiggled. And I was like, I didn't know you could get fat there. So it was, it was like one of those ones where, but what I typically do is I'll sign up to something, like a fitness thing. So I did High Rocks, was it last year? End of last year? Beginning of this year? I think it was beginning of this year. But my problem is I'll train for like 6 weeks before. I'll lose like 3 kilos. But in my head, when I've done it,
I've done it.
I'm an athlete, mate. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, I can eat what I want for the rest of the fucking year, and I'm going to. And then next thing you know, it's like those 2 kilos I lost during the training, I'll put on like a stone, like 2 weeks after.
Each jar of beer is like 500 grams, so.
Of happiness. Of happiness, mate. But no, that's the thing. So like definitely, cutting down on the drinking aspect of it.
That was a big thing for me. I stopped drinking a lot. I mean, I do. It's not like I don't drink at all, but it's rarer now. Yeah,
I just think, for me, it's like, I don't like waking up with like a cloudy head. I wasn't going out and getting drunk every day. But the problem is what became the norm was going out most days. And it was acceptable to have 2 pints, and just like that, and you kind of just, swing by on the way home because you got mates doing this, from old man's doing that, and that kind of thing. And then, but all of a sudden you start to gain weight, you're starting to feel less, your head's less clear. Well, that's it. And then, I don't typically drink very much on the weekends. And all of a sudden, Monday, I'd feel amazing. And then, just trying to find that correlation of, and the biggest difference is you enjoy it more. If you're off it for a while and you work hard through the week,
you don't need to drink as much when you.
Well, that's exactly it.
Immune to it.
Yeah,
there was a stage in my life when it was like that.
100%, mate, and that was the thing. And it's like, and then you feel much better. And then when you do have a beer on the weekend, or at some point, you feel great. You know what I mean? So just from that, and just, we're quite lucky now. We've been in Dubai long enough, 11 years now, where we kind of know what it is. Yeah, exactly. Done the brunch. And fortunately, Georgie and I, before we had the kids, we met when we were 22. So we were brunching all the time. We got it out of our system. So when we had our kids, there was no issues of trying to find, I want to go back to that lifestyle. There was none of that. We were kind of like, cool, this is our new norm. Quite happy to become chilled out. And fine, a lot of people are like, you guys have got boring. Yeah, give a shit, It's like, I'm enjoying it. So it doesn't mean anything,
Well, there we go. Good point to end on.
Yeah.
And don't drink, folks. That's...
yeah, only in moderation.
But so yeah, and honestly, again,
thank you so much for the invite. It's been fantastic,
and we'll definitely stay in touch more often.
Mate, absolutely, really, really enjoyed this. And let me know if you ever want a game of golf, man.
Yeah.
I've got vouchers.
I'll come and play with you, and you can tell me what I'm doing.
Or maybe we'll go to the range a couple of times first if you fancy it, and we'll just
sounds good to me.
Iron out a few issues.
Are over there in the corner. And my biggest problem is I've got like the TaylorMade P750s, I think.
770s maybe.
770s maybe actually, yeah. And they're way too good for a...
yeah, that's more like, that's kind of your 5 to 10 handicappers. So the 730s are for 5 and less. 510 or 5 to maybe 60s, your 770s, and then 790s are maybe the easier ones to hit. But no, it'll definitely be the clubs that's the problem, Ash.
My best ever round, I shot 86.
Mate, that's good going.
I don't know where that is. That's the problem. So anyway,
no, I'd rather be lucky than good. But thank you very much for that. And mate, this is fantastic. I'm sure it'll be a massive hit. I hope so. Thank you so much for that.